and Kindle. Great. Hi, everybody. All right, so how's everybody doing today?
Good, how are you?
Doing well. Just tired. So today we're just talking about things we have going on for the multimodal version of our projects. Some of you, based on your rough drafts, have already gotten an idea of where you're going, so we're just going to take time today to discuss those so we can really flesh out our ideas. I don't really have anything else to cover, so that the length of this meeting will be determined by how much we discuss that. So who is pretty confident with their sort of multimodal project? What are they doing, or what are you doing, and how do you plan on doing it at the moment? And this goes for like anybody. There we go. Now I got the chat thing pulled up. And I guess before you answer, there's somebody in the waiting room called what's the name, Kenley and Kendall. I don't know who that is. Does anybody know who Kenley and Kendall is? Otherwise, I'm just not going to admit them into the room. Fine. Okay. So yeah, what ideas do we have going on? I know some of you wanted to make like posters. Somebody was thinking about making like a painting and doing the presentation around that, which I think is kind of interesting. But what do you got, like have going on? It's too quiet. I'm gonna go crazy. Okay. Planning on making like an infographic. Okay, what did I ask? Okay. What do you have in mind for the multimodal portion of your project? Somebody's gonna make an infographic on PowerPoint. And if I can at least pull up the thing again from the acquired knowledge, not the flu. This was the sort of infographic that they made, which if you do something like this, yeah, you can totally do like a PowerPoint. And remember, PowerPoint does have tools where you can just like record your voice and then put it in there, so you don't have to do it like on the spot. Because we do have to try to present this in a sort of normal fashion, just based on the course expectations, which is I don't like it. Maybe if they change their minds, we won't do the presentation portion of it, but I don't see that as happening because when we have our meetings once a week, they're very particular about us still doing it like a normal class. So yeah, so I'm seeing like a lot of infographics and PowerPoints. That's good. Just make sure you have something that you can talk about for 5 minutes where you can at least introduce what you're doing. The multimodal project will be about the essay you're currently writing. So it all ties together because it's one unit. It's broken up into two projects. You have the paper, and then you have I guess, the add-on or the extension of the paper where you're taking your project and making it multimodal and presenting it to the class. And if you just remember the different modes, which is just text, visuals, audio, movements of the space around you, those are all individual modes. And as long as you're engaging with more than one, then your project is multimodal. But the point is to try to address two different audiences and try to convince them of what you're trying to change about something. Like with this one, is just awareness. Where did it go? They're trying to bring awareness to be cautious about not getting the flu. I don't think this is going to show, so I'll put this here. Which still kind of works out. I know a couple people are covering COVID-19. So something like this is pretty useful for the project that you could be doing. And you're free to be creative with it. Just remember, the more you prepare in advance, the less work that you have to do during the actual presentation. So if you did record something in advance, if you did use PowerPoint, you can put all of your audio. If you plan on speaking, which there are ways around it if you're clever enough, that you just don't have to do anything like on the spot. So admit. So yeah, so that's another rundown of that. So you can just do something creative, like doing what somebody else is doing, making a painting. You can use something with visual art as long as you are having like text applied to it as well. You can make some weird, stupid like pixel art, like this little thing I made the other day. Just as long as it's something that is both amusing, informative, and addresses a different type of audience, at least the audience that you're trying to change the minds of, where if you're trying to initiate some sort of change, you have to address the right sort of people. So if you want something changed in buildings, infrastructure, who are you going to address with that? Somebody that's in charge of finances. So it'd be beneficial if your project at least addressed the most important person, even if you're not literally sending it to them. But doesn't have to be. You can also just raise awareness for other students so that they become unhappy with something and they try to initiate change as well, if that makes any sort of sense. So what does everybody else have going on for this portion of the project? Is there anything that I can make more clear? I've made a few adjustments to it throughout the semester just to make it easier for us to all be able to do it, but it is connected with your paper. It's just supposed to be like an addition to your paper. So if there's anything I need to make clear, please let me know so that I can sort of address any concerns. For those who've rough drafts I've looked over, I found out I have one left I have to go over. I've at least encouraged those who didn't mention anything about this portion of the project in their essay to include a little tidbit about how they're going to initiate change, which is why this is like a change-making essay. It's an argumentative essay. We're just trying to fix something that you think is broken. I guess I shouldn't have that up on the screen. Let me have Ryan. The presentations are 5 to 8 minutes. So as long as you have as long as you're ready to like bullcrap your way through the choices you've made in compiling something, because the person who made this infographic, they were ready to talk about it for 5 minutes, which is mostly the time of your introduction. Well, your presentation will be spent introducing your project to the class, and then explaining some of the rhetorical choices that you made in creating your multimodal project. So as long as you can justify your decisions and talk about them, then you should be fine with the presentation portion. It's kind of taking some of the things that you've learned when analyzing the two texts and viewing their rhetorical values and applying those strategies to your own work so that you can try to be just as convincing as some of those arguments may have been if they were successful, or at least just trying to explain some of the choices that you've made. So once again, what else do we have going on with projects? If anybody would like I said, if there's any sort of questions I can address, this is definitely the time to do it before we go further on. And just a reminder that I've been putting up the dates all the time. I've been using this one a lot, but rough draft is done. We're doing our workshop today. The polished version of the paper with the reflection isn't due until next Wednesday. A lot of you are in pretty good shape, but I feel like some people need extra time. That's why you have a whole other week. I felt like I was going to take much longer on going over your rough drafts as well, considering how long it took me to grade the last batch of papers, but that worked out well. And then something that I wanted to get down, I do have on the schedule meetings next week, and no, the polished drafts are due next Wednesday. I pushed that back, so you have more time. They were originally due this Saturday, but I wanted to give people more time to look over my feedback and address them. So I did move it all back to next Wednesday. So I'm glad I covered that again. But yeah, so I had on our schedule that we were going to be doing some meetings, individual meetings, to see where you are in the semester, to see like what things you need to address. But it's going to be kind of weird to do that. We'd still do it in this format. Just my question is, would you still like to do the meetings that we had in mind? If so, then next week we can, we'll set up times to meet throughout the course of next week. So that's what Monday and Wednesday's class will be devoted to, just one-on-one meetings where we can talk about things that you need to work on or how you're doing in the class so far, especially with having to suddenly go online with everything. It might help give you some assuredness about where you are in the semester, but that's up to all of you. Do you still want these one-on-one meetings? Do you think that they'd be beneficial to you? If not, then we don't have to do them, but that's really all up to you. So who would like to have these one-on-one meetings? Otherwise, I'll just substitute it with something else, cover other things. I'll just change up what I have on the schedule. I'm trying to be, I guess it seems wishy-washy, but I'm trying to be as accommodating as possible. So who would like to have the meetings? Who doesn't? I'd at least like to be consistent if we do or don't. But if anybody wants these meetings, let me know. You can message it in the chat, or you can just unmute yourself and then say, I'd like to do meetings. Okay. What I can do, I can just take one of those days then, since the ones who's responding so far don't really think they need meetings. Yeah, so I can make them, I'll figure that's something for Wednesday. But for those who may want a meeting, I'll set up a time slot. I'll set up a sign-up sheet. I'm not going to set any times because it's not like I have anything else going on. So I'll say for those who do want to have a meeting, I can do those on Monday. I'll just put a sign up sheet. If you don't think you need a meeting, yeah, still, if you have a random question, email me. As you've noticed, if you email me, I will get back to you as soon as I can. But I'll at least set Monday aside for people who may feel like they need meetings or haven't been able or been kind of lost after transitioning online. This will be a chance for those who may need some guidance to at least meet with me one-on-one to talk through a problem. So I'll at least make it optional to meet with me on Monday, although most of you don't feel like you need meetings, which is great. So I feel a little bit better about that. But I'll at least make it an option for those who may feel like they do need to meet with me one-on-one, especially those who have had this any issues going forward. So yeah, so Jan, now that I've got that out of the way, I'll figure out something else to do for next Wednesday. So just on Monday, we'll just be working on that. Friday, I'll cover the portfolio and what all sections need to be in it and the point values for those sections, along with going over your sort of final reflections. We also had for the week of finals, we had some final discussions over the portfolio so that anybody could take that time to convince me that they've made necessary changes to get some of their grades adjusted. I don't think those meetings are going to be necessary either. As long as you can, as long as your portfolio has some revisions made and in your reflections to your portfolio, it lists some of the changes that you've had to make, that will be good enough. I don't see why we need to have a meeting for that. It'd work better if we were in class because we'd be there and we could at least discuss and have physical copies of things, but we can't do that. So just remember that for the final is just going to be that portfolio with an extended reflection. If I remember correctly, the reflection is like 2 pages, but it's just your thoughts of the process throughout the semester. You don't actually have to meet with me on that week of finals. You will just be submitting your portfolios, we'll say by the end of the times for the finals, so that we at least seem kind of consistent. But other than that, we're just focusing on finishing up the paper version of this unit before we move on to the multimodal portion, which is well, if you have any other comments or things you need to talk through about your multimodal project, this is the time to do it. I feel like I've rambled more than I intended to, but that always happens. So yeah, if anybody has any other questions or wants to bring their project up to me so that you can at least hear if it's going to work well or not, do that. I'll wait just a second. Yeah, for the portfolios, let's see, for Friday, we actually have things going over the reflective writing process that we'll be using in their portfolio. And along with that, we will have an assignment overview. And there is an example final portfolio impact prints that we'll be covering on the 1st. So before we do the portfolios all together, we will at least see an example of what the portfolio would look like. I could see if I can get a text version of that so I can at least pull it up for you all to look at for those of you who may have already returned pack prints or don't want to look for your copy. We'll do it that way. So you can at least have something on hand that's not just in that little book for you to look at. So that should work as an example. That one looks like it's 17 pages, which should be, with all your reflections, that seems about right. And that's the overview. Okay, so there is a full portfolio that we'll be covering. Well, it's actually shorter than that. It's actually only 10 pages. Okay. Yeah. So we can cover that up a little more when we do that. It's mostly, from what I just glanced at, it's mostly going to be covering the reflective process of it. But it'll make more sense when I do have these guidelines for what should be in there, and what I'm expecting. And then just since it's all going to be in one document, you will have something a bit longer so you can see all the work that you've done this semester, even with the road bumps that we've hit. So now that I'm done talking again, does anybody else have anything that they want to add? Or any other questions they want to address right now? And if there's something that I've made clear in the past and then I kept talking and made it unclear, please let me know. Because I do have that kind of habit of just continuously talking. And it's a little different when there's no real feedback to work off of. I just keep going. It doesn't help that I'm tired. So yeah, any other questions or comments, throw them at me. Feel free to unmute yourselves and say something, although nobody wants to do that. Okay, so I don't think anybody else has any other questions. So just remember, if you are doing an infographic, there were those two websites that I listed that you can use for those, not that. We have Venngage and Pictocharts. These are both different websites you can use to compile infographics. You can do something in PowerPoint, or if you wanted to use one of these websites to at least make an infographic and then put that into one of your slides in PowerPoint, that works as well. Just as it at least has the tools to do something like that. And then there's also, if you have the Microsoft Office Suite, which you do get for free as being a student, there is at least Microsoft Publisher, I think it is, where you can make brochures and other things. Okay, yeah, so I hate this little thing. So if I could get this thing to stop popping up, I don't know if you see that on your side, but so we have Venngage for one of them. Oh, it's two N's, so I've been spelling that wrong this whole time. So Venngage is one of the sites that you can use to make it. And then what was the other one? It was Pictocharts, which I think I like the look of Pictocharts better the last time I brought it up. Oh, I can't spell either of these things because they're spelled strangely. So I could start typing this in before. Yeah, so you at least have these things that you can make. I don't want to look at those. Give me some example infographics. Okay, so yeah, Pictochart with a K, and Venngage with two N's are two sites that you can use to make these little infographics or things that you can at least compile a bunch of information and data onto. If you do, excuse me, if in any of your research you do find some statistics, I'm totally mispronounced that, some statistics, you could totally use that information and put it into one of these infographics, as long as you at least say that you get the information from a certain source. You're just making it look pretty. If you feel like you need to do something like that just to have something that's more presentable, you can email some of your classmates or text them, getting it, like doing some of a sort of a mock survey to gauge other people's perceptions of a problem. If you want to include those in your paper or in your presentation, just things that just general perceptions of other people over an issue, that works as well. Just, you're free to be as creative as possible with it. If you feel like something may not be in the right direction, you can totally email, but totally try to take some sort of a risk with it. If you feel comfortable with it, I can look at any sort of draft early on. If you wanted to try to record yourself early, trying to do like a mock presentation, see if you're doing things correctly, you're free to send that to me. If you want feedback like that, also works. So with that, does anybody else have any other questions or anything that I need to at least cover? I feel like I've talked about multimodal a lot. It's not that hard of a term. It's just one of those fluff words that you come across that make things seem more complicated than they actually are. Um, if you do at least think of it as something that's just a combination of text and visual elements with some audio, then it's fine. But it's pretty much what it is. So if anybody else has any other questions, please let me know. Um, and at least like with um, the story pan, like the what was it called? Storyboarding. I don't know why I forgot. I blanked on that for a second. If you wanted to do something that was kind of like a comic book with a bunch of different panels, as long as you can make some rhetorical choices within those, and because you're having text and visual elements, you can talk over them if you feel like that gets your point across clearer. If that's the type of way that you want to engage with your intended audience or the people that you need to convince of something, that's also acceptable for those who really like to draw. And if something like that is a bit easier for you, just do something fun and presentable. That way you can at least get through those 5 minutes as quickly as possible. So any other questions before we're done for the day? Because I was hoping for some more like things that come up so we could talk through them, but at the same time, I also had only a few expectations of going beyond 10 minutes. So, and we're almost at 30, which is ridiculous. So I must really like talking your heads off for no reason. So yeah, if you have any other questions, let me know. I'll give you a few seconds to get them in there. If not, then you're free to go because I can't possibly go on any longer without any sort of questions. Okay. Yes, you all have a wonderful day. Email me if you have any questions. Also, email me if you want me to look at any drafts of what you're planning on doing with the multimodal project. I will try to be as communicative as possible. So otherwise, if you do a meeting, it will not be in my office. I can't even, my office is closed on campus. I can't even go in there. So it'll have to be something online. If you want to do it through email, that's fine. If you want to do it through a program like this, that's also fine. That's how I did one yesterday. But yeah, so if you want a meeting with me, it will still have to be online because I have nowhere other than home to go at the moment. So yeah, so you all have a wonderful day. I'll put a sign up sheet for those who want meetings with me for Monday. And otherwise, yeah, just have a fantastic day. And be safe. And while you're all, oh, I need to do that too. All right, so yeah. Okay, yeah. Have a wonderful day. All in meeting.